Stigma almost killed me, and that's not an overstatement. You know, we say denial is the #1 symptom of mental illness and substance use disorder, alcoholism. All my outsides were really everything I'd wanted. I was married at the time, had the career I wanted at the time in higher education, the car I wanted, the condo, the vacation, the cats, the clothes, all that stuff. But I was miserable. And I thought that I have all these things. Really sick people, true alcoholics, truly mentally ill people don't have college degrees, don't have jobs, don't have cars, don't have this. And that wasn't about the externals, right? Having all the things and all the trappings of a happy life and not being happy. So it was hard to believe that I had a problem.
My name is Angela Hegeman, and I serve as the Operations Director for the ETSU Addiction Science Center. I've worked in that role for about 9 years now. I've actually met several people who themselves were so ashamed of themselves, so ashamed of their need to obtain their drug of choice every day, and were also ashamed that they thought they should be able to do it cold turkey, that they should just be able to quit, and if they were stronger, or if they prayed hard enough, or if they just did something strong enough, they could quit. But I've learned that people recently have heard and learned more about the different treatment options like medication, went out, sought good medication-assisted treatment, and are now living stable, happy lives. And that stigma was really keeping them, the internal stigma, and the feelings that other people had was keeping them from getting that treatment, but now they're successful. And so I've seen that shift a bit more, and I've known people who are more willing to say, yes, I used medications, or yes, I used an alternative, or it took me 6 times to get better, but I did get better.
My husband and I would go back and forth. You know, we both were addicted to opiates from prescriptions, and the prescriptions started going away and things started tightening up. What took us from taking that first step into the medically assisted treatment programs, we had always just heard, you'll be on it for the rest of your life. There was just so much stigma, even just for asking for help. You know, people would say, you have a problem, you need help, but they wouldn't say, how can we help you?
If I could get in front of somebody that deals with the stigma of being a part of the LGBTQ+ community and deals with the stigma of addiction, and just give them a piece of advice, and I would just try to tell them that the only thing that they have to worry about is their own recovery. We're all hard enough on ourselves. We're our own worst critics, and we don't need any other critics. We do enough of that on our own. And I would just try to sit with that person and tell them my story, and just let them know that there's hope and there's such a brighter tomorrow.
I had my first daughter when I was 14, and I love my children to death, but people don't realize the barriers it can put on you at a young age. You know, it's scary when you think that something took control of your mind to take you away from your kids. And you know, that was a barrier that I had, you know, people looking down because of, you know, I made the decision to give my kids up because that was what was best for them right there. So it was hard. I struggled a lot. I went through a lot of hard things, but it brought me to where I am today.
I probably have a little bit different view of stigma than the majority of folks that you're going to talk to. And not that they're wrong or that I'm right, it's just different. I'll share with you a story. I was, March, I'll be clean for 7 years. So probably about 8.5 years ago, I'm doing anything I can to try to figure out how to use successfully or not die. I don't really know what I was looking for. I went and saw a prominent doctor in this area, and I remember that doctor telling me, and we're cool today, like I see him from time to time, but I remember him telling me, this is the best it's ever gonna get for you. And I remember being like, well, that's terrible because my wife is in shambles in this moment. And he said, for a chronic opiate addict of your sorts, The best that we can hope for is a level of maintenance and maybe, just maybe, some form of stability. And like, I remember at the time being like, halfway suicidal. And for me to think that's the best that it's ever going to be, and I'm like, look, man, I can't pass any of your drug tests. I'm doing every drug known to man, as much as I can get my hands on. And when I don't have it, when it starts to wear off, I sit here and think about how can I die so I don't have to wake up and do this again. And if you're telling me this is the best it's ever going to be, it's like soul crushing. And, 7 years later, I'm a father to that daughter who didn't want to talk to me anymore, who wouldn't put up with any of my nonsense. She's going to school. She's at ETSU right now. She's about to go study in Greece in the fall, make straight A's. And she loves her dad. I started a nonprofit with 2 of my friends with 0 grant dollars. We're about to open houses 3 and 4 in 9 months. My biggest qualm with Stigma is that the powers that be set the bar of success for guys like me and my friends at not death.
You have 2 types of people. You have people whose parents have never dealt with this, and they just want to sweep it under the rug. And that's part of the problem that the church has had. Part of the reason that this problem is so rampant within the church. I'm a pastor. I'll talk to you all day long about the church and where we failed in this. But as opposed to saying, okay, you have a problem, let's address this problem. We're going to sweep it under the rug, or we're going to just blow it off as, oh, well, that's just a kid being a kid. Every kid experiments. Well, every kid experiments until they're doing blow and until they're shooting heroin in their veins at the age of 17, 18 years old. And then the other issue is it's a generational issue here in this region. We have 2 young men. One has graduated our program, and his cousin is in our program now. And they are going to be the first 2 people in their family in over 6 generations that is not addicted. The simple question would be, number 1, be aware of what your children are doing, and don't be afraid to have that hard conversation. Don't be afraid to say, look, I know that you're going through it. I know that there may be some emotional things tied to it, but I'm not afraid to go through this with you. I am your parent and I love you. And then the second part of it is the generational. I mean, that comes with education and time and breaking cycles and letting people see their intrinsic value, not just to society, but their intrinsic value to God, and how important they are as individuals, and that there is something other than what they've grown up with.
There's so much more than not death. At some point in time, we've got to get to the place where we realize, how dehumanizing that is for someone, because we've all got dreams, we've all got aspirations, we've got people that love us, we've got things that we want to accomplish in life, and we're generally passionate and pretty well-versed folks. And to say, when we do censuses for the state, we're going to say we're successful because you didn't die on us. So when I think of stigma, it's the belittling of the powers that be, that think, hey, we're going to give you some Narcan. And don't get me wrong, I give out Narcan for a little, that's part of my job. I do that, and I believe in that. We're going to give you some Narcan, and we're going to hope that you don't die, is a slap in the face to any person who suffers from substance abuse. Because we're a whole lot more than just not getting thrown in a casket. And I'll tell you this, people I personally know that have died this year from an overdose, 4. We're not even through the month of January. 2 people in a week that I knew well.
I often am talking to family members of people who want their loved one to get into recovery, and then I ask them to please have that person call me or meet me for coffee, and let's meet face to face. I'm not going to judge you. And I think the first thing I just say is, what do you need and how are you doing? And is there anything that I can do to answer questions? Are you interested in getting treatment? And if so, let's talk about that. And if not, tell me how your day is going, just like I would talk to anybody else. I think that we really want people to change so much, and we want them to change on our timeline and in the way that we like the best. And so I just think that it's important to just say, hi, how are you? What's your name? What do you need? How are things going? And if you want to know more about treatment, I can talk about it all day. And I'll help you and I'll go with you. And so I think it's just treating them as human beings and not treating them as their disease.